Hey guys, Jofu here. We are back with another LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga video. I'm pretty excited for this one because a few weeks ago, before the game was actually released, I did a ranked video on the class abilities that were leaked. And yeah, I've got to say, that video really blew up. I really appreciate everybody who came, watched, liked it, and left a comment. I think a lot of people sort of missed that that was the leaked footage that came out before the game had dropped. And yeah, at the time, we're really only looking at the class abilities as they were written. Now, with the gameplay, we can actually give you a definitive ranking. And with a quick disclaimer, these are my opinions based on my experiences. But to show you how I get to number 1, I'll be using 3 different categories to rank every class today. So we'll be ranking the class abilities for each class, we'll also be ranking how effective each class is during the episodic adventures, and we're also going to be ranking how creative or effective these classes are in the open world. And while we're at it, we're also going to do a quick comparison to my previous video, just so we can get a quick sort of idea of expectations versus reality, because some of the wording on these abilities were really cool, but they just didn't play out as well in the game. But just to recap my previous video, in 9th position we had Scavenger, in 8th we had Astromechs, in 7th Scoundrels, 6th Protocol Droids, 5th Jedi, 4th Darkside, 3 Bounty Hunters, 2 Villains, and to round it out at top spot we had Heroes. And real quickly, just before we get into it, to everybody who's going to ask about the extra characters, unfortunately they don't meet the criteria for this ranking video. They're all different, they come with different abilities, they take some parts from here, some parts from there. But we'll definitely do a video on them in the future. Once I've had time to really get back into the grind and unlock some more of those characters, we'll be able to do a ranking system for them. Without any further ado, here we go. So coming in at 9th position with a total of 11 out of 30, we have Scoundrels. Now, I'll admit, I didn't use these guys too much when I was playing through all the different episodes. They had their use and I thought that was pretty cool, but it wasn't until I actually started upgrading them just to see what they could do where I thought, geez, I wish I hadn't upgraded these guys. So the real killer for this class is that charged shot ability. Every time I tried to use a Scoundrel, that charged shot ability just really killed the momentum of the game, having to do it every single time. And outside of their puzzle ability, it really just kills the whole class, and that's a shame because I love Chewie and Han Solo. And that's the driving factor behind why they only got scored a 4 for their abilities, a 4 for their effectiveness, and a 3 for their creativeness, because they really don't have too much else outside of that one ability for the puzzles. But moving on to 8th position with a total of 14 out of 30, we have Protocol Droids. Now, this was a class I was really excited for one thing and one thing only, and that was turret tune-up. But going through the game, there's actually not too many instances where that'll even come up, and not a few different occasions where I've disassembled him to go through the little secret tunnel to come out the other side and find the other characters there waiting for me is just way too frequent. However, they are necessary for most episodes, and they do have a lot of terminals out in the open world. So that's why at the end of the day, we've rated their abilities a 5, their effectiveness a 5, and their creativeness a 4. And moving on to their partner in crime, we have the Astromechs. With a total score of 16 out of 30, the abilities on this class really let them down again. With the premise of being a droid is that you can pretty much go through anything undetected. And instead of giving Astromechs a cool ability like their little thrusters where they could hover around, they've just given them bigger damage outputs, which really defeats the purpose of going around undetected. However, they do have a lot of Astromech terminals, probably more terminals than any class in the game. And they also, oddly enough, have grappling hooks, which is a huge benefit to the open world exploration, but I found this married better when you were using a Jedi or a Sith and you could actually force lift them and use them to complete puzzles or bypass obstacles to collect kyber bricks. And with that in mind, that's why we've rated them a 5 for abilities, a 6 in effectiveness, and a 5 for their creativity. So now, moving on to number 6, this is actually a class that I had ranked a lot lower originally, and in my previous video I was actually quite critical of their abilities, but with a total score of 17 out of 30, we have Scavengers. Now, while they don't feature too much during the actual episodes, but when you're replaying through them, they can hold their own in combat. But where they really shine through is their open world exploration. And that's primarily just because of their gliding ability. They actually have this neat trick where they can place nets on the wall as long as it's a flat surface. But other than their creative uses, they are quite bland and plain. So that's why I've ranked their abilities a 5, their effectiveness a 5, and their creativity a 7. And now as we move into number 5, this next class I actually had much higher hopes for. And with a total score of 19 out of 30, in 5th position we have the Hero class. I think what lets this class down is because it's a LEGO game, there's not very high stakes, with its abilities mainly focused around survivability. None of it's actually really necessary, and I think if you could actually up the difficulty of this game, this class would be super important. I mean, it's the only class that really boosts you both in space and on the ground. But once you unlock a couple of those core abilities, especially the extra health, the risk of actually dying in this game becomes a lot smaller. Outside of that, creatively they don't really offer anything the other classes can't do as well, with their best feature being the ability to disguise as villains and then unlock all their abilities. So essentially once you finish all the story modes, it's really obsolete. But in saying all that, we have ranked their abilities a 7, their effectiveness a 7, and their creativity a 5. Now in 4th position we have the first of our lightsaber wielding classes. Yes, I have a bad feeling about this. We have the Jedi. The Jedi is a fantastic class, it offers a lot in combat, and essentially if it's not fixed to the ground, you can use the Force on it, which is awesome. Creatively, there's a lot you can do with this class. You can actually use other objects instead of just the designed objects to bypass obstacles, or just lift up your old buddy R2-D2 to collect the Kyber bricks for you. The only shortcoming really with the Jedi was their abilities. Force Slinger was definitely worth it, but other ones like Jedi Reflexes are more situational, and I still believe abilities like Trick Time and Mind Master should have really been rolled up into one, because there's not a whole lot that separates them from the dark side. So that's why we've ranked their abilities a 6, their effectiveness a 7, and their creativity a 7 as well, for a total of 20 out of 30. Now real quick, before we get into our top 3 today, don't forget that if you're enjoying today's content to like and subscribe. That helps me out a great deal. None of this is possible without you guys coming and watching my videos, and now that I've gotten over COVID and school holidays, I can't wait to get back into the grind and make more videos for you guys. But getting straight back into the video, with a 21 out of 30, in 3rd position we have Villains. Now, Villains is an excellent class. It takes all the best stuff, particularly out of Heroes, and just makes it so much better. They seem to get all the best guns, they get thermal detonators, and even a training remote droid that'll assist you in combat. I mean, the best part about being a hero was being able to disguise as a villain. But it does have one major drawback, and that is that it's not really good creatively. This class is basically just chaos and calamity, and I gotta say, I'd love it for that. So that's why for its abilities, we've marked it a 9 out of 10. Its effectiveness is an 8, but its creativity is a 4. Now, in 2nd place, with a total of 23 out of 30, we find the class with unnatural abilities. Yes, that's right, we have not the Sith, no, it's the dark side. Why they don't just call it the Sith, nobody knows. But regardless, this is one of my favourite classes to play. And I might be somewhat biased, but I am constantly finding myself picking Sith over Jedi, like 90% of the time. My issue with this class originally was that Force Crush and Dark Rise were essentially two sides of the same coin. And just like the Jedi abilities, I really thought they could have given us something extra. But in saying that, the dark side is ranked higher because it does offer more than the Jedi. Because when you unlock those two abilities together, it allows you to pick up people, not just droids. But once you start combining this with some of the other classes, you'll have everything you need to reach those hard to get to Kyber bricks, with minimal effort. So I've ranked their abilities a 7, their effectiveness in-game is an 8, and their creativity is an 8 as well, for a total of 23. And that takes us to top spot. Yes, you have probably already guessed it, and I had a lot of you comment on this on my previous video. But in number 1, we have Bounty Hunters. And to be really specific, it was mostly 2 characters that got this over the line, and that was Jango and Boba Fett. Because their use of the jetpack has been super helpful with exploration. Their scattershot makes them super effective characters. And like I said in the last video, it is hard to fault their abilities, because every single one of them works so well with this class. I find myself playing through previous episodes I've already completed, and the enemy detector is super useful. Their use of the grappling hook just makes heroes null and void. And when you have all the stud multipliers on, and you're collecting those hidden bounties at such an exponential rate, your studs go through the roof. So that's why when I was breaking this down, in their abilities, they scored a 9 out of 10. Their effectiveness is an 8. And their creativity is a 9. There's just not much this class can't do on its own. And when you combine that with other characters such as the dark side, you have such a lethal winning combination. So there it is. That's it. What do you guys think? Apparently it's good to be bad. And once again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope everybody's feeling better that now we've officially got an updated video out. Thank you all for your time. I know this was a longer video, but I'll cut the outro short, and I'll just say thanks guys. I'll catch you next time.